today's video, we're going to focus on adding some organelles that are just found in plant cells. So plant cells have a lot of the organelles that we've already learned about so far. They have a cell membrane, a nucleus, Golgi apparatus, smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum, a mitochondrion, and ribosomes. They also have cytoplasm. They're going to have all of the organelles that we learned about in the animal cell, as well as these organelles that we're going to add in here. So if you want to take a minute and review the previous organelles, I would encourage you to just go ahead and do that. And then when you're ready, go ahead and start here. Okay, so plant cells differ from animal cells in two major ways. So plant cells have cell walls, which animal cells do not have. If you want to take a look at this, you can look in your Sciencesaurus on page, I believe it is 76, and then the animal cell should be on 77. You can compare them and look at how they appear and see all these structures that I'm talking about. So we don't have cell walls, but plants do. And when we eat plants, part of the reason that plants crunch is because they're full of water, and they can hold that water because they have cell walls. So if you imagine eating a piece of celery, when you bite into it, it's really crunchy. And the reason it's crunchy is because there's lots of water in the celery cells, and it's held there by the cell wall, which is made out of a material called cellulose. Now, if you eat a piece of celery, your body actually can't digest cellulose, which is what cell walls in plants are made out of. Things like termites, they can digest cellulose, which is why termites can live off of wood. If you tried to eat wood, it wouldn't do very good things. You could eat it, actually. You could chew it up and it would taste pretty awful, I'm sure, but you wouldn't be able to digest it, so you can't get any nutrients out of it. But termites make an enzyme in their belly that allows them to actually digest cellulose, and so they can eat it for nutritional value. But when we eat cellulose, so let's go back to that piece of celery. You eat the celery, you chew it up, but you can't digest that cellulose of which the plant cell walls are made. However, those cell walls are really important for your diet. So eating vegetables and fruits and whole grains are important because of all that cellulose that's in the cell walls. In our diet, we call these cell walls that we can't digest fiber. And fiber helps your digestive system work properly. So it helps to move food through your digestive system. Fiber is also really important for your cardiovascular system. It helps make sure that we don't get clots or clogs in our arteries due to too much fat buildup. So fiber is really important, even though you can't necessarily digest it to get nutritive value. You do want to make sure that you're eating lots of plant cell walls, which comes from eating fresh fruits and veggies and also whole grains. So that's one thing that plant cells have that animal cells do not, is a cell wall. Plant cells also have some organelles that animal cells don't have. So two of these are chloroplasts. And if you remember, thinking back to our plant unit, you actually already know what a chloroplast does, right? So this structure is green, and that should give you a hint if you couldn't quite remember what it does. It's where photosynthesis takes place. And a plant's leaf will have many cells with chloroplasts. So the first thing that first organelle that a plant has that we don't have is a chloroplast. And the reason is animals don't do photosynthesis, right? And so we don't need those chloroplasts. It might be kind of cool if we had them, be able to eat sunshine for lunch, but we don't. So animal cells don't have chloroplasts, plant cells do. The second organelle that plants have is the vacuole. And if you remember when we were talking about the nucleus, I said the nucleus is the first largest organelle in animal cells and the second largest organelle in plant cells. And so the vacuole is the thing that is larger than the nucleus. So this structure can be the largest organelle in many plant cells. Now the reason it can be the largest and not it always is the largest is that the vacuole's job is to hold water. And so if the plant has plenty of water, the vacuole grows larger. Kind of imagine filling up a water balloon. If you fill it full, it can be quite big. If it's only a tiny bit full, like let's say the plant hasn't rained in a while, or you have a house plant you haven't watered in a while, the vacuole won't be as full, okay? And it also holds the plant cell's waste products. Now, this is going to be things like some oxygen will be dissolved in there because oxygen is a waste product for plants, and other things that come from metabolizing sugars. So some of the waste products will be dissolved into the water in the vacuole. If a plant is not getting enough water, like I was just describing, this organelle can shrink, so it becomes smaller. And what happens, if this happens in enough cells, if the vacuole shrinks in just one cell, you probably wouldn't notice it. But let's say you have a house plant, you don't water it for a while, what's going to happen to it? Yeah, you probably know it's going to wilt, right? And so what's happening is if enough of the vacuoles shrink in the individual cells, then the plant cell membrane shrinks away from its cell wall also. So the whole cell at this point is shrinking. And if this happens to many cells in the plant is going to wilt. It looks sad, right? And so if you ever have seen a plant that wilts, let's say here, so here, we'll make a little plant pot. And then we draw a plant in it. If it's going like this, okay, the leaves are looking all droopy and wrinkly. This plant is wilted. If a plant has enough water, it should stand upright. We should see like strong stems and strong leaves. Sometimes this can happen to vegetables in your fridge. So if you've ever kept lettuce in your fridge a little too long, or even celery, and you pull it out, you can see that it doesn't look crisp anymore. And the reason is it's drying out, it's losing some of its water. So to recap, there are two major differences. Cell walls are the first difference, and then the second difference are the two organelles that plants have that animal cells do not. So they have the chloroplast, which helps them do photosynthesis, and the vacuole, which holds the water. All right, that's it for today's lecture. We're going to color the parts of the plant cell in the next lecture.